Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are heading into our final sessions, nearly our final sessions of the Growth Club. I hope you've had a fantastic time. Look, you know the drill by this stage. We're going to jump in, kick off this next session. Today's session, you are here for how to use AI to build your own tech stack. No dev team required. I'm super excited about this one. I'm an AI nerd. I think this is the future of where development is heading. Like, it's all going to be natural language models. Now, in this session, we're catching up with Anderson and Brian, two Canadian accountants who they work in practice, they work with accountants and bookkeepers, but they are now on the cusp of using a lot of these tools to build their own AI products and things that you could be using in your business today. The point of today's session is to help give you an idea of what's possible. I mean, sure, you could try and build what they are about to show you as well, but I actually think it's just here to give you some thoughts. Go, hey, I've got an idea. I think I could build that. I could build an MVP. I can build something simple. Let's get stuck in. So the housekeeping, as always, all sessions are being recorded and transcribed, powered by the team at Vinyl. You'll get access to all these recordings once the summit is over, as well as access to things like the transcripts and summaries from those sessions. So if you want to play any of it back, you totally can. CPD points are all available for all sessions, powered by the team at AccrediWise, and we're still giving away $500 worth of cash. So all you need to do is tag us on LinkedIn, jump on LinkedIn, tag the firm, share the hashtag Growth Club, and just tell us about the session you're in. Tell us about this session that you're about to get into right now as well. Huge thank you to our platinum partners, which is Intuit QuickBooks. Huge thank you to everyone else that's been part of the summit. Hopefully you've enjoyed all the sessions that they've been running over the last 2 days. Go and check them out. And without further ado, we're going to kick off into this session. So as said, this is use AI to build your own tech stack, no dev team required. Oh, you can see I've got a typo there. Brian Clare is the CEO and founder of Blueprint Accounting. Anderson Petergeorge is the co-founder and bookkeeper at Quanto. Again, these are Canadian friends who are happy to share their knowledge with us today. There's one CPD point available according to CreditWise. What I'm going to do now is hand over to the team. So Brian, Anderson, it's over to you guys. I'm going to let you start sharing your screens. Hopefully everyone can hear and see us. Jump in the chat and just let me know you can hear and see everything okay. And we'll kick it off and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. Let's go.
Awesome. Thanks, Trent. Super excited to be here. I know Anderson and I were chatting for a bit about this one, and yeah, we're stoked to be here. So thanks for having us on. Yeah, my name is Brian Clare. I live in Canada. Anderson does as well. He's going to intro himself, but I'm the founder and owner of Blueprint Accounting, an accounting firm in Canada. Love technology, love AI. It's definitely facilitating a ton of stuff within my own firm to build out, these different apps that we, I don't need a developer for. So we'll go through some practical examples here. And the one that we're going to focus on today is actually building out a pricing calculator. And so we'll dive into that a bit later, but I'll pass over to Anderson. He can do a little intro of himself.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Really nice to meet everyone virtually. Yeah, Brian and I are total nerds about this. When Trent introduced us, we had a great, I think it was almost an hour call where we went back and forth on all this certain things. And the feedback we had for each other was, let's keep this very, very simple. When we work with firm owners, anxiety creeps up saying, oh my God, am I losing out on this AI battle? And so what we want to show you is the fact that you're listening to this is that you're already ahead of probably 95% of people. So that's a huge kudos. A little bit about my background. I'm also an accountant, did CPA here in Canada, initially started my career at KPMG, and then kind of moved over to the dark side a little bit. So became a private equity investor that looked at a lot of accounting firms and then came back to the quote unquote right side. And what we were doing is helping accounting firms get transaction ready. So we are kind of your tech team that helps you put in all these cool automations. And then so ultimately you're able to improve your operating metrics and then be able to get that valuation that you want or be that platform investment where you can roll up more accounting firms. But what I love nerding out on is this automation stuff. So Brian's going to show you a practical use case. So we'll dive into that. And then I'll be a little guinea pig where he's going to teach me how to do this and we'll see it live. Everything's going to be live. So I'm really excited. So I'll pass it back to Brian.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to share my screen too, and we will dive into an example here. Okay. This is the example. So we've got every time. There we go. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, awesome. Okay. So, like I said, we were thinking, what could we build here live that's quick enough to, spin up using something like Lovable and ChatGPT, and I'll show you like a super simple example. So we thought, how about a pricing calculator? Everybody always asks, how do I do a fixed fee price or value price, not just focusing on hourly. So we thought this might be a good example for something like that. And basically, we prompted ChatGPT to figure out how do we actually build this in Lovable, and then take that final prompt and feed it into Lovable, and it just goes crazy and builds out this app for us. Obviously, some additional prompts as it was kind of being built, but this gets us to this point. And so we have this app that I guess Lovable picked the name Pricewise. But basically, we have this dashboard, and you'll see. I'll just log out here actually. So we have this login page, and I'll pull up the actual login here. Here we go. We can see we log in. There we go. So these are just some examples that I was doing. But on the back end, we got some global settings here. We can set roles, and you can see we have like rates for each role, a cost, and a calculated margin. We can create different services within here. It's pretty much just add a service by the name and the monthly price or the monthly minimum. We can add different industries and whether we do a markup percentage. So if I click here and maybe I want to add, tech, maybe they got 20% markup. We click create. We have that now in our list here to select from. And then we create these different tier rules. So this is kind of the master database of what are those tiers that we want to add based on different calculation points for our pricing. And essentially we're doing markups, right? So whatever our base minimum is, we're going to mark it up based on whatever we add within the pricing calculator. So we got transaction volumes, number of bank accounts, number of bills, forecasting frequency markups, employee calculations for payroll if we're doing that as a service. And then we have like a corporate tax service here based on revenue thresholds. And then that all feeds into doing a new pricing sheet. So we just click new pricing sheet. We have this form here. And what happens is we can choose an approver. So let's say I only have myself in here, but let's say I added Anderson. He's going to approve this one. I'm creating it. He should probably look at it and approve it. So I would pick him as an approver. We can put, a client name. So we have a new client. We'll choose their industry. You can see I pulled in the e-commerce and tech one from the settings that I picked. So we'll say it's an e-commerce client. What's their organization level? This was just one of the features that we picked. So are they highly organized, somewhat organized, disorganized? Let's say somewhat. They're doing a recurring service versus we could choose one time if it is just a project. We can put in their total annual revenue. So let's say they're at $1 million. And then we can choose our services, right? So those are based on what we added in the global settings. And let's say in this case, we're going to do, bookkeeping. You can see we have conditional logic built into this as well. So what's their transaction volume? Maybe they're 500 a month. Number of bank accounts, they got 4, we'll say. Maybe they have payroll. They have 5 employees. And then let's say we're going to do some forecasting. And what's the frequency that we're going to do? So we'll say monthly. Then we just click create packages. It does some math and calculations in the background basically. And then it produces these calculations here, or these packages. So we have bronze, silver, gold, rough estimates on what we think. Obviously we can adjust them from there. And then just down below, we have the pricing calculations. Right, so we can say how does forecasting get to like 1,500, bookkeeping 1,890, payroll 190. They don't necessarily match right now. This is not a fully polished version, but I think we get the idea here, how we can quickly spin up, an internal app where this may have cost tens of thousands of dollars initially for, if you pay a developer to build this, whereas now we can just prompt it through one of these AI apps like Lovable and have something like this ready to use and sort of prepare a proposal. And then once we go back to the dashboard, we can see that there. We can do other things like going back in to view it. We can edit it if we want to. And you can see we have these additional options here that get added to override a price if we want to. We can update this, clone it, delete it, submit it for approval. You can see if I go back to the dashboard, it's in pending approval status. Haven't tied this in yet, but it could say email Anderson. And he could be like, okay, I got this new pricing sheet to review. Come in, review it, provide feedback. You can even click reject and have this box pop up to provide some feedback on that, or approve. And now we've got that all tracked. And now we have this really slick kind of pricing sheet here that we can figure out how do we want to actually price that client and then get it into some kind of proposal and send it off to them, basically. That's kind of, I want to show you that first, and then we'll dive into the actual build of it, I guess, right now. So let's go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to share my screen. And I think what we want to iterate here was I like leaning on this. I think Canadians are a bit too humble as the feedback that we get. Like Brian's firm is like one of the top modern accounting firm of this year. So like a lot of people are like, well, like I wish I was as skilled as Brian and knew all this stuff. And that's where we're like, we're going to see me who knows nothing about any of this, and Brian's going to coach me through it. So that's where we're excited to kind of demo live right now. It's going to be a whole new project. And I think that also the context we want to provide is a lot of the times as accountants, we were using Excel in different ways to share spreadsheets back and forth, which was really painful. Who had the right version? And you see from V1 all the way to like V100 dash someone's initials.
Final.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so now instead of hiring a software developer, an engineer for $100,000 in many cases, you're able to now speak to it. And so I'm going to quickly share my screen here and we're going to dive into it. And I'll also caveat to say that I was one of those people that signed up to probably like 10 different Coursera courses on how to code and never got past the first level on any of them. And I've,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I feel like there's many of us in the rooms like this. And Lovable has just completely changed that for me. Like we can nerd out on this, but I think the future of software is natural language. And so let's kick it off. So I'm showing the Lovable screen here, but what's really powerful, and Brian's going to coach me through this, is going to something that most of us might know already, or even if you're not familiar with, called ChatGPT. And you'll see kind of a typical ChatGPT interface. We're on the Teams plan, which we highly recommend because one, it's SOC 2 compliant. The other part is it doesn't train on your client information, your accounting firm information. It doesn't go back to OpenAI or get trained in the model. So we highly recommend this as kind of the type of subscription you want. Here you can see some things will quickly just navigate if you've never been on ChatGPT. So here you have what I call custom GPTs. We call this in Quanto as like our employees. So that's why we have names here. They do different things. But for the purposes of, and here is projects. So you can put kind of certain projects. A lot of firms that we know will put their clients in there so that if they're doing virtual CFO services, you have all that context in there. So you can like talk to them before you go into meetings and prepare yourselves. You can see some of the stuff I have there is more on our personal side, trying to track my macros and trying to track my health. But what you're seeing here is like the typical, just standard ChatGPT. There's some models here, but we don't need to get into the specifics. But what we recommend is kind of 4.0 to start. That's kind of the basic model that's like really quick, gives you the answers pretty fast. And for the purposes of prompting Lovable, it's pretty great. The other ones are more from complicated reasoning and thinking. Happy to chat more about that in the future session, but right now we would say let's do 4.0. So I'll start off with what would I recommend is give the ChatGPT a persona similar to any kind of meeting or human you want to involve into this. So I would say, hey, you are a lovable no code prompt expert. And I like to add this. This sometimes works, but with 20 years experience, which is funny because Lovable isn't even out for 20 years, but this gives the GPT a persona that it needs to be very serious with you. And then Brian, do you want to maybe chat a little bit about like the pricing, just feeling this pain point yourself? Like what is your firm facing that you want to kind of get solved here?
Yeah, I mean, if you even think about like 5 years ago, a lot of the sessions at some of these conferences are around, well, how do I go from like hourly billing to fixed fee or value pricing, right? So that usually is there's few sessions that would be in any of these conferences, and helping people kind of understand how do you even maybe consider going from that. Super simple one would be, well, how many hours are you spending on a client each month times your rate? Okay, let's set that as your starting fixed fee, right? And then you can kind of build it from there. And as you learn more about, fixed fee pricing and value pricing, that's where you put in some of that theory, I guess we'll say, to build up and get effectively a better hourly rate.
Yeah, so I'm just taking notes as Brian's speaking just to do it. I want to caveat like this is a terrible prompt right now, but I'm going to show you this last line that's going to make it way better. And so even as someone who doesn't know how to run a firm, nowhere as close as well as Brian, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to process it, and I want to be able to have an internal calculator for people to use with variables to give a price per client.
Yeah.
And then this is the key line. How would you better prompt this? Please ask me questions that
Yeah.
you want the answer to better prompt you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That last one is super key because if you don't put that, it's just gonna do whatever and go.
Exactly. And like this is why it's you're able to learn really fast because ChatGPT has trained on all of human history, basically the internet. And so here I'm just going through it and it's saying, okay, thank you for the context. You're aiming to move away. So it kind of understands what we're trying to do. And it's kind of broken into three things. So the pricing philosophy, this is really interesting. So I'm just going to copy this because I'm going to answer it. And it says, what are the main variables you want to include? And so I'm going to come back to Brian here to kind of help me with some of these answers. So I'm just copying this. So I'm copying it into the answer here below, and I'm going to just answer it within that. Oh, this is a really good question too. So it's like a lot of the questions we get from firm owners is like, okay, I built this really cool tool and like, how does it connect into my existing system and stuff? So Lovable can go into this rabbit hole of how you connect the backend. But in the meantime, let's just get the prompt and then we can show you all that. So Brian, should we walk through some of these questions together? And
Let's do it.
so the first one is, are we aiming to maximize profit, standardize pricing, or improve transparency?
Probably the first two, I think.
I
Maximize
agree.
profit, standardized pricing. Yeah. It's always nice to have a standardized way to price things.
Nice. And then I guess it's true. Like if we're switching, do we want to keep both or do we want to just go fully to value-based options?
Let's go fully to value based. We're getting
Nice.
out of hourly. We're not tracking time anymore. We don't want any of that. We just want to price on that value.
Love it. And oh, interesting. So I guess this goes back to like the value-based pricing. Do we charge per person, project, or outcome?
Outcome.
Nice. And then this goes into the second section, which is what are the main variables you want to include in the calculator?
Yeah. Okay. So we could almost take some of the stuff that I was showing there, right? So
Yeah,
we can do it based on services. Let's say that. Industries.
services based on industries. Nice.
We could say transaction volumes. What else can we say here? Employee, like total employees. Maybe revenue in the company, I guess, or like total revenue for the company.
Yep. Awesome.
That's probably a good starting point.
Okay, so let's just remove some of this other stuff. That's awesome. That's really good. And then do we want to manually enter hours automatically estimate them from past data? I think this one we'll just leave out because that might mean that we need to connect past, and that might sit in your Carbon or various different practice management systems. So that's a bit too complicated for this one, although I'm sure we would love to nerd out on it. And then where should this calculator live? So this is just going to be its own web app. So we can also remove this one.
Yep.
This is asking if it wants to connect into different things and who will use it. This is cool because it gives the AI a sense of who's in your firm is going to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I would say salespeople, but also having an approval layer, right? So the example I was giving earlier, maybe I'm creating it, but I want you, Anderson, to approve it.
Awesome. Do you want to store it? Yeah, this one is also a little bit more complicated, but at least we know what ChatGPT is thinking and where it's trying to guide us to get like a full thing. And I think what we're going to caveat here when we showed this is like you as the firm owner that's probably watching this have all this context. So when people get scared about AI, it's like it's supposed to be kind of that advisor, that like that software developer that you just hired. And so Brian, I'm that software developer here, and then Brian's kind of guiding me through his use cases. So let's just hit submit here, and nice, it kind of knows me by name. Which makes me feel kind of like I'm talking to a person, and it's like, okay, cool. So it's giving me the prompt here. And it's also kind of comparing it to other tools, which is really interesting. So pricing logic. Okay, so it's asking me for more next steps, but I think we want to start playing with Lovable already. So let's go and copy this. Let's copy all of this, actually. So I want to give it the full context. It might confuse it, but I think if it does get confused.
Yeah, it might be okay, actually.
Yeah, I think so, right? Okay. Let's do it. So coming back to Lovable here. Honestly, I just paste it, copy paste. No coding, no like, oh, did I get the slash right? Or did I do a bracket wrong? And I'm just going to click. And then so in the beginning, it might take a little bit of time. So me and Brian were chatting about this. We're like, all right, we got to like become comedians in this time or something. Because what you're seeing right now is like the initial hard work that's being done. So I'm going to spook you all and I'm going to show you something. Where is it? Not refresh. Oh, here we go. So if we go and see this, for accountants like us who have never seen coding, like this is literally AI writing code, which is kind of spooky. Zero idea. And like this is our kind of our main job. And like Brian's done this way more for his firm. And like we've used Lovable and the products that come out of it in many different ways. But I have zero idea anything that's happening here. So that's kind of the world that we live in. And that's what gets us really, really excited. And so we can nerd out more, but sometimes I'll just like watch it go and like, wow, this is so crazy that like this code is just getting written and written. And we'll show you ways of like refactoring the code, which I also learned what that meant, which is like making sure your code base isn't getting like too cluttered. So think about an Excel worksheet with like multiple different tabs of like June V2, and then you're just like, well, I could have just like collapsed this, and like that's a legacy tab that no one uses anymore. So that's what refactoring means. But I don't know, Brian, any thoughts when you first had your Lovable experience?
Yeah, I was kind of just like, all right, do your thing here. I'm gonna sit here for a minute, maybe step away, go grab a drink, come back, see if it has any questions for me. But like the code is, to me, it's interesting to look at it. Like just like you, I signed up for a bunch of courses, never did them. So then when I see this stuff, I kind of go in and look at it. Oh, page response.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, yeah.
Creating a problem maybe for it. But yeah, just like get to go look at it and kind of try to understand it a little bit. And there's definitely things that you can pick up and like see some of the wording and how it's labeled. Like that'll help you understand it a bit. Now you're not going to go into, be a software developer and like actually triage this stuff and fix it. But I think it's still fascinating just to take a look at it and try to understand. And even if you see the code, there could be an instance where you just copy a part of it, take it over to ChatGPT, and be like, hey, like, what does this even mean? What is the code base trying to do here?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I'll just jump in right now just to quickly explain what happened here. So, classic, I think I'm running too many things on my computer and it's not handling this. And so it kind of froze the browser, which kind of like stopped the code. So this was more of my computer fault, not a Lovable fault. But it says build unsuccessful. And usually be like, oh, where did it stop in the code? Oh my God, what do I do next? But what's really cool is I could just say try to fix, and I'll just continue. That's like a really cool thing now where like if there are errors, it just goes back to the human to be like, okay, so you can see right here, it says I'm looking for the error. There's a missing closing tag. But that's just because like we stopped the code midway, just because the browser kind of froze. So
Yeah.
sometimes like if it's not working, like Brian was saying, you can take that code, you can put it into ChatGPT, ask what's going on. And Lovable is also getting better themselves, because if you think about their company, they're trying to keep you on Lovable and not try to get you to go to different sources. So they're only trying to get better. And I think I listened to a podcast of the Lovable founder, and they're saying like this is the only software you'll ever need. That's like kind of their vision, which is pretty broad. But also like what they're trying to say is like this is the worst version of the product that you'll ever see. So like what we're showing you right now is the worst version of Lovable that's already able to do all this stuff. So that's pretty exciting. And here sometimes when I get bored, I'll go back to this and I'll be like, oh, this is cool. Hopefully it doesn't freeze my computer again. Okay. Yeah, I got a bit worried. So it's still going, but in the meantime, while this one's setting, maybe I'll show one that we already had run, if that's
Yeah.
helpful. So it's the exact same thing, the same prompts pretty much from ChatGPT, and we just put it in here. So it looks like different than what Brian put together. That's because like not all prompts are the same. It's kind of like a snowflake. Like each prompt is kind of different, and the way the AI agents will take it will be different. So if you want it to look the same as something else, then I would recommend just like screenshotting that. Like I could have screenshotted Brian's and be like, actually, no, I want it exactly like this. And you can paste it here and kind of go through that. But Brian, do you want to test this one out and together? And Gabby and everyone is probably going to break, and there's a lot of things that's not going to work, but let's see what it says.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. Try, click on the settings, see what comes up there. Here we go. So you can add roles. We got services, modifiers. Yeah. So like very similar to what I had built.
Yeah. And let's see if we can edit it. Oh, wow. We can edit it already. So like the reason why we're shocked, but like, is because sometimes like some of the buttons haven't been built out yet because Lovable is just asking for you to know if that's a priority. So in this case, like they've kind of already built that out. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So if you're like, this is how much I want to change to senior partners, managers, or senior associates, billable rates, you can do that. This version of it has like the billable rate. I know we were talking about value-based pricing, so we can also change that as well. And it has target margin, which is pretty interesting. I don't know, Brian, are these great margins?
They can be better for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Services.
Base complexity, yeah, very similar, right? So I was doing markup percentage, pretty much the same idea.
And then let's check out the modifiers.
Okay, rush job, highly complex, extended scope. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the point we want to iterate is this is an internal version of this tool. So like it doesn't have to be completely perfect. It's something for you and your team to use. But if you ever wanted to make it external, that there is obviously that optionality as well. But the version that we're showing right now is internal. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just make it look however you want and say whatever you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the other maybe we'll touch on this a little bit later, but some of the other interesting things you can see a couple buttons there on the top right. There's one that looks like kind of a lightning bolt, and
Oh
then
yeah.
it's the Supabase and the GitHub ones, right? Like super interesting thing there. I knew nothing about databases like Supabase, and you could just prompt Lovable and be like, "Hey, I'm going to connect this to a blank database for Supabase. Can you create all the tables?" And it'll just go do it.
So cool. That's
Like,
so
it's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then even on the GitHub side, like that's like saving repositories of your code. You could connect it to your GitHub, create this repository where it actually has all the code created here to build this app, and maybe even like invite a developer into your code base within GitHub, and they could help you if you get stuck on something. Bring them in to help you out. So it's very very connected ecosystem, all these different apps, so that you're not just having the conversation with Lovable. Like yes, it's got the chat piece, but you can connect all these different apps and actually make it, fully functional and connect the databases and the GitHubs and whatnot.
Yeah. And if there is something that you don't have or you want to do, I think what's also interesting. So I'm going to do something that all of us accountants love, and I'm like, can you add a button to make this download into CSV? I think
Yeah.
like when a lot of people see this, they're like, oh, thank goodness we can get into CSV at least. And that
Maybe
might not be
there. Yeah.
you, but it might be someone else at your team that's maybe more familiar with that. And so you can add these, like, this is not something where now I have to like go to a software developer and be like, can you get this? This is literally you're gonna see it happen live, where it's gonna, yep, there you
Yeah.
go.
Here you
So
go.
there's download CSV right there. And so if I click on it, there you go. It downloads right into a CSV, which is incredible. So that took like less than a minute. And then like Brian said, like these databases that was kind of a limiter. Like you would say, okay, I've mocked out all this stuff. And traditionally what people would use is Figma. You can think of that as like a really good version of Microsoft Paint for anyone that is familiar with Paint. Now, personally, for our firm, and also when we work with other firms, like we no longer use Figma. We use just Lovable. And then we had this block where we're like, oh, we need to connect to the back end. And then like Brian said, now you can just be like, hey, can you just connect this to Supabase, which is like an amazing Excel if you want to think about it that way. And you can just be able to put everything in there. So should we take a look at the other one that we just made?
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay,
They want you to
cool.
refactor, actually. You were
Very
talking about
cool.
refactoring earlier. They want you
Yeah,
to
yeah.
refactor now.
That's awesome. So yeah, so sometimes, which is really cool because like I still honestly probably can't explain what refactoring means, but what it's doing right now, it's making it into small, more manageable components. So sometimes if you think about an AI agent, like a mini software engineer developer for your firm, like they themselves need the data to be in a way that they can work with. So this uses AI to put it into a version that helps the other AIs be able to continue your code. So there's a bit of iteration here, but what's amazing is all I'm doing is clicking buttons and talking to it. So
Yep.
just want to kind of emphasize that. Going
Yeah.
back here, maybe we'll play around a little bit more around some of this. So yep, there's that button does not work, as we can tell. So and so if we click return to home, it went back, which is great. But that was the copy button. So if we think copy is a priority, can you make sure all the copy buttons work and actually copies that client information? And you can also change the coloring and all that stuff, which is super simple rather than trying to
Yeah.
like learn what the HTML code is and like edit it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like drop in your hex code, right? For your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can like take your logo, you just pop it in here and just say, can you change all of this app into my colors of this logo here?
Yeah. Like put the logo here, put it there, wherever you want it. It'll write that into your code base. So you were saying earlier how you watched that. I think you said it was a YouTube video of the CEO talking about they want people to just be on Lovable, right?
Yeah.
I think like recently, maybe in the last 6 months or 3 months, they added the chat button there, right? So you can see like in your prompts there, that the little chat button. So that actually like removes the agent. So if you don't have that checked off or marked off, and you start having that conversation, the agent's gonna actually like try and action something. Now they've added in this chat feature, and it's almost like going to ChatGPT. So we were talking about that, like let's make it more meta. We're gonna have the AI create the prompt for the AI. But you can use this chat feature now and just like have a conversation with the code base basically, or have a conversation with that AI agent, but it won't action anything. And it can actually come back. So maybe try a prompt there
Yeah.
and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. How would we maybe do that? Like just something, right?
This to value based pricing for accounting firms unbillable. What do you think we need to say to this for our web app? Okay. So let's see if we want to actually switch this to value based pricing and how that will be reflected.
So now it's going through, yeah, it's reading all the
Wow.
different components in the code base. It's going to understand how the tool works.
Like I think this is so wild when I read this. It's like I can see it's heavily focused on traditional billable hour pricing. It's like it feels like it's scolding us for having a billable hour pricing. Like,
Yeah.
how are you still doing this? Wow, this is incredible. So yeah, telling us to reframe the conversation, value discovery questions. So yeah, exactly what we were doing in ChatGPT to a certain extent. So even as people like us who are building with AI, so frequently, sometimes we're like, wow, like now we no longer for certain situations. So we'll probably have to test this just to make sure it's the right prompt. But this is already looking pretty awesome.
Yeah. And you can see the button. It says if you really just want to do exactly what it's saying, you just click implement the plan and it'll go about and do it, which is super fascinating. Now that I'll preface this, you don't have to use the chat feature there. There are limits on the lovable plans, so that's generally why, like me personally, you probably do this too, Anderson, where you'll will go to ChatGPT because there's less limits there, or more limits, I guess, and start the conversation there, and then kind of bring it over, for example, just like we were showing there initially.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's really funny when you like talk to it too much and then it just says I'm done with you.
Yeah,
And
back in 24 hours.
exactly. So while this one's doing it, so it's implementing that whole plan, which is wild. Like, I think like working with software engineers, like if we were to give someone this, they'd be like, yeah, get back to us in like a week minimum. And you'll come back and be like, I didn't want it in this format. But the fact that it's like kind of working on that already.
Yeah,
So if we go back to this one, nice. So it's refactored it.
yeah. Let's see what comes up. I wonder if it's the page, maybe. Oh, there
Oh,
you go.
there we go.
Oh, see, that looks even way different, right?
Way different. Yeah. Different prompting. So this is why like the prompting is so important. And the knowledge that you have, all of you as firm owners, I think is like what will make this look so different. It is really like kind of like art, like in a sense, like what
Yeah.
is in your mind that kind of gets onto the canvas, which is lovable. Wow, this one is very, very different. So pricing recommendation here. Let's try it. Like let's
Yeah.
try
See what happens.
lovable CPA accounting. And the service is there's got some
Okay. Interesting.
yeah, some of them not as like I don't know about strategic consulting, but I'd like to see some bookkeeping and tax in here. So we might have to just prompt that later,
Yeah.
maybe. But there's a lot of so let's go to e-commerce. So let's say the business is 500,000, and say the employees had 50 employees. Actually, no, that's way too large for 500,000. Say 5 employees. Transaction volume. Okay, so let's say that's like 10 to 100K. Wow, additional notes is pretty cool. I wonder how it would do it, but
Yeah, let's see what it's saying here. Okay, suggested
whoa,
monthly. Woo, okay, nice. I like
that's
that price.
that is a solid price. Okay, so
Yeah,
clearly, what's really helpful in this situation is at least you know the infrastructure is built out. Clearly, the content needs a lot of work because I think if you
yeah,
showed that sticker value to any e-commerce business only making $500,000 a year with 5 employees, they would not take your call anymore. But you could just give it like literally your pricing. Like I know a lot of accountants have this sitting in an Excel file or like a PDF or something. So just take that, put it into here, and
yeah,
then you can kind of iterate on that. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I also like how they have the gradient, which is really cool.
yeah.
So there's a lot of like focus on the UI stuff. Oh, here it is. So
Override, manager approval. Oh yeah, there you go. Pending approval. Export quote. Yeah, that's neat.
yeah. And the one thing that we're not showcasing here is like that element of connecting it to your practice management system, or like something like an ignition if you want that to can automatically go in and be a proposal and get sent out. So that's something that is a bit more complicated, although it's still not in the realm of possible for someone who's not who's not technical. So anyone like us could do it. It just takes a little bit more time. But remember, you have ChatGPT and Lovable there as a friend that you can continuously ask in natural language. How do I do this? Can you send me the code? And back.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything, Brian, anything else here that you want to kind of touch on that we kind of showcased?
This is good examples. Honestly, you get two different views.
Yeah.
Very similar prompt, right? And you kind of see how they come out very different.
Exactly.
It's fascinating to me.
And maybe before we kind of wrap up, any other use cases? And like I could say, like some of the other ones that we've seen is honestly, when people have like more internal, like recruiting has been like like a tougher
Oh
problem when
yeah.
like people have a lot of like applications and stuff they want to review. This can create a nice form for you so that like people can apply with like certain things you want. Like, hey, I want someone that's like proficient in QBO, and also I want someone with a little bit of zero experience. I want someone who's a CPA for a certain thing or have tax experience in a certain state. And so we've created forms, and they feed into that database that Brian was mentioning, Supabase, and then you can be able to query that and look for certain expertise quickly. So that was something that we were recently building this week. But I know, Brian, you're building so much for your firm, so I'd love to
Too
hear.
much. Too much. There's so many ideas floating in my head. I'm like, all right, which one do I focus on here? But yeah, I mean, like the couple that I've been working on recently, I posted about them on LinkedIn. Was let me think, what was it again? Oh yeah, it was the auto reconciliation bot. Like feed some information into the AI app, and then it'll sort of go back into QuickBooks, for example, and do the reconciliations for you. So super applicable to like any firm that's using QuickBooks or even Zero. You can kind of do the same thing. The other one was, I don't have my notes here, but let me see if I can find my LinkedIn post. I have built obviously a Chrome extension, so I'll mention that.
Yeah,
Never knew how to build one. I'll give Isaac Perdomo a shout out here. He was the one that kind of put me on Chrome extensions, but I had this idea. I want to work more efficiently within Carbon, and so just started shooting messages out to ChatGPT. Said, "Hey, you can do this, this, and this," and then kind of went ahead with building out some kind of code base to create a Chrome extension called Cardboard to basically navigate around Carbon. So it's interesting. You can kind of build like whatever you want, really. Just use some imagination and just start having the conversation with AI and kind of see what it can build, like we just did with the pricing calculator.
yeah. Seeing Brian's stuff on Carbon is super, super cool. So if anyone's not following him already, like Cardboard is really awesome. And yeah, we love firms that work on Carbon. We try to kind of suggest Carbon when we work with them too. So yeah, excited. Awesome. Well, maybe kind of that comes to kind of our end of it. But if anyone has any questions, best way to contact me, I'll let Brian share his info, is probably on LinkedIn. So my full name is Anderson Petergeorge. There's kind of only one of me because there's basically three names in there. So you can find me on LinkedIn. We're trying to share as much content as possible, just practical use cases that accountants can use immediately, just like this. We share a lot of ChatGPT as well. So that's probably the first place that we tell people to go to if you want to implement AI into your firm. And Brian, how can people contact you?
Probably LinkedIn as well. I just changed how people can find me. So I removed my last name. So you'll have to look for Brian C. and then a period, I guess. But if you can see what I look like right now, which I'm sure you all can, you'll be able to see my picture there, and you can kind of find me from there. But yeah, just trying to post a lot on LinkedIn and share my my experience with AI and kind of the things that I'm trying to build and stuff. So just it's all super fascinating to me. We'll see what the future holds, I guess, with AI, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and then want to just thank Trent and all the team for inviting us. This has been a ton of fun, and we love nerding out on this. So if there's any other accountants there that love to spend their pastimes just building automation and stuff, like we love having these chats and love to speak to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Brian and Anderson. That was awesome. Who knew there was so many different ways you could build a pricing calculator? I hope all of you are now sitting there going, oh my goodness, what can I build? This is blowing my mind. I did give them that brief. I said, please feel free to blow a few minds today and give people ideas and thoughts. So hopefully you've got lots of thoughts and good ideas. If you want to check those guys out, you can find them on LinkedIn, Brian Clare and Anderson Petergeorge, both sharing on LinkedIn all the time, all the different things that they're working on. So if you'd like this session, check that out. If you want to play back the recording, you'll be able to do that very soon as well. Alrighty, we are heading in to our final sessions on the Growth Club. So for our 3 p.m. sessions, we have Amanda C. Watts talking about marketing that attracts high-value clients and repels the wrong ones. Amanda is amazing. I caught up with her recently to go through the prep for this session, and she knows her stuff. So if you're really interested in marketing and how to better position your brand and the type of clients that you want to win, you need to check out that session. The other session and the other final session of the day is with Rob Stone from Appfentry. Those that know Rob has been around the industry for a long time. Rob's amazing. We love hearing and chatting with Rob, and he is talking about app advisory that pays, how to turn tech advice into a profit center. They're doing some really cool things with Appfentry where it allows you to scan your tech stack, scan your client's tech stack, and actually then giving you the insights to add value back to those clients, saying, hey, did you know you've got all these particular different tools in your organization? Did you know that 20% of your users don't actually log into some of the apps that you're paying for? So it's giving you different tools and ways to engage with your clients on the tech stack that they have. So that is our next two sessions. They both start at 3 o'clock. You can check them out right here on the Summit page. I look forward to seeing you there as we kick off our final two sessions. Chat to you soon. See you there. Bye-bye.